Alright, welcome. Shone here with you for Algebra 1, Unit 1, Lesson 1. So we're going to first go over some vocabulary for evaluating expressions, and then we're going to show how to do some expressions out by hand, and then also show you how we can use Desmos as our graphing calculator tool to get to those same solutions. And then you have some practice to make sure you understand the concept. Alright, so here we go. First off, let's identify what a variable is. So a variable is just a value of a term, or in this case a letter that we don't know yet. It could be a symbol, but at our level of math it's going to generally be a letter. So you'd see something like this, where we have 1 plus x equals 3. That x represents the variable. Okay? So an expression consists of one or more variables or operation systems or constants. So you could have just literally one term. So 4x is one term, and that would still be considered an expression. In this case, we have 5x minus 3. That's considered an expression. So in this case, the 5 is what we call the coefficient. That's the number that multiplies with the variable, which as we said is represented at our level of math by a letter, and then the constant, which is a number that has no variable. So in other words, it wouldn't change. So in this case, the 3, in this case, the minus 3, that's that constant value. Okay? All right, so then from there, what does it mean to evaluate? So that means we're going to plug in, or math terminology as we move forward is to substitute a value for that variable. So in this case, we're going to see the expression 2x plus 3. And then here it says when x equals 3. So that's telling us that value of x is 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to substitute that value of 3 in wherever we see it for x using a grouping symbol. So as you can see here, it's 2 times 3 plus 3. So now we're going to just use our order of operations to complete and evaluate this expression. So 2 times 3 is 6. We bring our plus 3 down. 6 plus 3 gives us a solution of 9. Okay, so now we're going to go through and do these, and here it shows it to you in Desmos, and then in the remaining examples, I'll do the problem out by hand and then show it to you in Desmos also. And you do want to be able to know how to do both ways. So here it says that we're going to do 23 minus y when that value of y is equal to 5. So the 23 is our constant, so we're going to write that down. That's not going to change. Minus, and now we have that variable of y. Well, there I have negative 5, so I'm going to substitute that negative 5 in, and now I see minus a negative. So again, if I'm doing this out by hand, I need to think about my middle school skills there. So minus a negative is the equivalent of adding a positive. Well, 23 plus 5 equals 28, so that should be my value. Okay, so now I'm going to show it to you via Desmos. So we're going to go to desmos.com for that graphing calculator. So go ahead and do that, and then you're going to end up here. So now I'm going to go ahead and type it in, and I can just use my tool down here at the bottom, or you can use your actual manual keyboard. So I'm going to do 23 minus, and then a negative 5. So as you can see, I have that 23 minus negative 5, like you see the screenshot on the paper, but that equals 28. And that 28, obviously, is the same thing as we got it when we did it out by hand. So as we do these examples, you want to be able to do both ways and get that same solution. Okay, so as we move forward into our practice and going through these, I'm going to show these examples, and then you can try the rest yourself. So in this case, we see 3/5 p when p equals 1/6. Okay, so if we're doing this out by hand, we're going to have our 3/5, and that's going to be multiplied by the variable p, which we just identified is 1/6. So it's really going to be 3/5 times 1/6. So we do numerator times numerator, which is 3 times 1 is 3. 5 times 6 is 30. So now I have 3 over 30. I need to divide to simplify, so I'm going to divide these both by 3, and I get 1 over 10. You are always welcome to change that to a decimal, which would just be 0.1. Okay, next, from here, we see evaluate x squared when x equals negative 3. So we're going to take that negative 3, we're going to substitute it in, again, with a grouping symbol, parenthesis. So I see negative 3 squared. Now if we're doing this out by hand, remember squaring something means we're going to multiply it by itself. So we're going to do negative 3 times negative 3. Well, negative times negative is a positive, and 3 times 3 is 9. So we're going to get positive 9. Okay, lastly, down here, we have 10 divided by 2 times parentheses x plus 2 when x equals 3. So we're going to substitute that 3 in there. So we're going to get 10 over 2 times 3 plus 2, which equals 10 over 2. 3 plus 2 is 5, so 2 times 5 is 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1. So that's going to be my solution. Okay, so now we're going to just show that we can get these same solutions via Desmos. Okay, so with that being said, I see I have 3/5 times 1/6. So I'm going to do my 3/5 in here. So I go down into this next line. I'm going to use my parentheses, and I'm going to do 3 divided by 5, and then I'm going to close my parenthesis. Now, you'll notice here how if you don't hit the right-hand arrow button, that parenthesis just kind of goes into the bottom. We don't want that over time, so what you want to do is use this right-hand arrow key here, so then the parenthesis comes up kind of where it should be, okay? All right, and now I'm going to create a new one for that 1/6, so 1 over 6, and again, use that right-hand arrow key and close out that parenthesis, and you'll see we get 0.1. Just a quick thing in Desmos, if you want to see the fraction, if you notice on the far right, it'll have a little button there, and you click it, and it'll change it over and convert it to a fraction for you. So that's where that 1/6 comes from. Okay, so now that changes it to 1/10, so you can keep it as 1/10. If you click it back, it changes back to 0.1. All right, going back to what we were looking at before. We could then do each of those other ones using Desmos. So we go back into Desmos, we can type in any of those scenarios. So we had the parentheses -3 close parentheses squared. So you can see that gives us 9. So that's not a problem, that's the same thing we got before. And then we had lastly the 10, and then divided by, and now we're going to type in 2 open parentheses, and then it was 3 plus 2, close parentheses. So again, you'll see it gives us 1. So for all of these, we get the same answers as when we did it out by hand. Okay, so now you want to go through, work on that practice, and then eventually we'll get to that exit ticket. All right, hope this helped.